The match I wanted to see and that I was interested in because I'm interested in both of the competitors was the TNT title match with Jay Lethal and Wardlow. And one would think that that was also the marquee match of the show, so they put it on first. But this is not the Saturday night's main event or even the Rampage time slot situation where you're losing people to sleep and you've got to get the main event on before midnight. It's 8 o'clock. So they burst out with this. And again, Jay Lethal has had no build whatsoever. First, we never saw him when he got signed. And then they put him with Sanjay and the giant Zippy the Pinhead. And they have pre-tapes where they do shtick. And Jay, I think he recently won a match. He lost his first 3 or 4 on television. So now he's going to face Wardlow because they yelled at each other last week. So this long-running rivalry comes to a head. And again, Wardlow is a phenomenon that they are rapidly losing their grip on. He's already twisting in the wind because he got over and MJF got him over and the situation he was in and his charisma got him over. And now they don't know what to do with it. And so Wardlow is basically facing a guy that hardly ever wins, that has to use his stooges to be physically effectual in any way. And Wardlow's a beast that's not supposed to fucking sell except if he's, screwed around some kind of way. So now you've set up a situation where the only way that Jay can take over on the guy for any length of time is if the Stooges distract or interfere or whatever the fuck. And since Jay has had no build whatsoever to this audience to be anybody to be taken seriously as a main event guy, you've got Wardlow, who's beaten up 20 people at a time the past few weeks, fighting a guy that needs his Stooges to help him do anything. A big attraction here. And speaking of a big attraction, Lethal jumps Wardlow, and Wardlow no-sells it and kicks the shit out of him, and then Giant Zippy distracts Wardlow so Lethal can take over for a minute, and then Wardlow just takes back over, and Wardlow no-sells the drop kicks, and Jay has to fake an injury to get a small package 2 count. And then Wardlow charges and hits the post, and Lethal hits a dive and gets heat on his leg, and they go to the break. And they come back from the break. Wardlow takes back over on him again and levels him with a clothesline, and then takes his time to make sure that everybody knows that he's going to get beat about as flat as anybody can get beat. And then he hits one power bomb and pins him 1, 2, 3. So Wardlow is not... the one weakness in his game is, if there is one, is he's not as experienced at selling as he is at anything else because he hadn't done it a lot and shouldn't do it a lot. But conversely, if Jay has not had any build, has not had any major wins, is not over, so you've just treated him like a complete flunky. A heel with heat that had been established can have that match with Wardlow. But not here. And nobody ever questioned the finish of this whatsoever, just the reason they were having it in the first place, because that was not real clear. So the match does nothing for Lethal, and nobody cared about it, and the fans didn't give a shit. And then, as soon as Lethal gets beat, here comes Sanjay and here comes Zippy, and they get heat on Wardlow by, I swear to God, and I told you this yesterday when I watched it. We talked on the phone. Maybe that's when we were talking about Hocus Pocus by Focus.
I have never spoken to you ever about Hocus Pocus by Focus.
But anyway, they got heat on Wardlow by the Giant standing with 1 foot on his chest while Jay Lethal got a figure 4 on him at the same time, and Sanjay got down on his hands and knees and scolded him like a puppy that's just pissed on the porch. And nobody was moving. It was like a picture. It was like a statue. It was the most boring heat ever. And then...
It wasn't heat. How do you call that heat if there's no heat?
I'm saying it was supposed to be. So then Wardlow makes a comeback out of that and kicks Zippy in the balls and tries to powerbomb him. And then they stop Wardlow again and take forever to set up a table. And then Zippy chokeslams Wardlow through the table. Like they do every week, multiple times a week, with everybody. So this was one of the most unique matches I've ever seen, and that both guys who have talent, and in one case, guy was getting over, it was rotten, and it made them both look worse coming out of it than they did going in it.
I think Wardlow's been one of the biggest victims of the booking in the last couple of months. Since the MJF match, he had all the momentum. It's all gone. The feud with Mark Sterling and the security guards. This, Scorpio Sky, like it just...
They made a main event guy and then didn't put him in the main events.
And like you said, the reaction here was a big part of the story to me. Jay Lethal hasn't done much to make anyone care in AEW. You've seen him at his best. TNA and Ring of Honor. People here haven't, unless you've watched Ring of Honor and TNA. So he hasn't really meant much. As talented as Sanjay is talking, he comes across like a minor league manager. Not minor league. He comes across like he wouldn't be with a main eventer. And I think that drags Jay Lethal down. The Giant, where does he rank on the scale? We should come up with a scale like Omos, Elegante, Giant Silva. We could put all the different Giants on there. I mean, he does a nice little pose on the entranceway and comes out, but no one cares about Wardlow now. That was the biggest thing we said. They're going to mess up Wardlow after the MJF feud, unless someone really watches after him. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, somebody forgot to book him a babysitter when the adults left the room to go out to the supper club.
On a positive note, this shouldn't do anything to derail Wardlow because not too many people saw it.
Well, there you go. So in every silver lining, there's a dark cloud.